Prince Wein of Natra Kingdom is popular among the people, but he secretly despises his responsibilities and plots treasonously to sell the kingdom. Because of the long winters and the lack of suitable farmland, the economy of Natra Kingdom is poor, and its debts are extensive. Wein's assistant Ninym Ralei, who tries to keep him in line, is the only one who is aware of his selfishness. The wealthy king of Mardin is inept and despised by his subjects, so he plans to invade Natra and gain popularity. Wein intends to weakly defend Natra before negotiating a trade of the kingdom for money. Unfortunately, due to a deal he made with Earthworld Empire months ago for funding and training, plus a rousing improvised speech, his army actually defeats Mardin, to Wein's great frustration. Knowing he must maintain his general's loyalty and his facade as a great ruler, Wein proposes invading Mardin's largest gold mine, hoping his generals will respect his brave suggestion but reject it as too dangerous. Unfortunately, all of the generals agree to the invasion. Wein hopes the invasion will fail, but the mine is easily taken, bringing wealth to Natra and convincing everyone that Wein is a great ruler. Wein learns from his chief miner that the mine is worthless. King Fusktar of Mardin is persuaded by his corrupt advisors to send General Draud and his army to retake the mine, despite the fact that it leaves their borders undefended. Wein decides to defend the mine for 1 month before, letting Fusktar buy it back, still hoping to make a profit and suspecting Fusktar is unaware the mine is worthless. Draud sends Commander Logan to negotiate peace after weeks of fighting. However, when Logan grossly insults Ninym, Wein beheads Logan and personally infiltrates Draud's camp and kills him for insulting Ninym, revealing just how strong his feelings for her are. It is revealed Wein is more capable than he seems, as he had attended Earthworld's military academy, and came first in every class, an embarrassment to Earthworld, who kept his test scores a state secret. Wein learns that the Kavaran kingdom has invaded Mardin through its unprotected border and that Fusktar is dead, effectively ending his plan to sell back the mine. Fortunately, his chief miner discovers a new and extremely profitable gold seam. Wein intends to celebrate, but Ninym threatens him with a return to work, reinforcing his desire to sell the kingdom and retire. Princess Loa of Earthworld, an academy friend of Wein and Ninym's, proposes a political marriage. Wein is suspicious because Loa is a well-known troublemaker. Loa privately reveals that her 3 older brothers are vying for the throne, so she seeks Wein's assistance in becoming empress. Wein is still suspicious because Loa's visit coincided with the smuggling of weapons into Natra. Falania, Wein's younger sister, wonders why Wein doesn't marry Ninym, but Ninym claims marriage is impossible due to her Flom people being discriminated against, so she is content knowing Wein loves her and only her. Loa and Ninym remember their other friends Glenn and Strang, while Loa reveals she has problems with Gerard and Gadel, who wants to marry her. Wein tutors Falania in inter-kingdom politics, focusing on Aunt Gadel. Gerard's father Grenache, the current Aunt Gadel Marquis, is a notorious tyrant. Loa recalls Wein recognizing her ambition at the academy and telling her bluntly to take what she wants, possibly by starting a war. He also told her bluntly that he would avoid helping at all costs, so she would have to trick him into joining her war, which she is currently planning, and wonders how Wein will try to get out of it. 4. Wein confirms that the Empire's conquered nations are staging a rebellion. He also correctly predicts that Loa's brothers are too preoccupied with fighting each other to notice, implying that Loa is attempting to manipulate Grenache into rebelling early by using her betrothal as bait. Gerard arrives to claim Loa as his bride-to-be. Wein believes Loa will use Natra's army to manipulate Gerard into ending his father's rebellion, so Wein must avoid being manipulated into handing over his army. Gerard discovers Wein was trained with a sword and requests a demonstration. Wein intends the duel to be a draw, but Gerard is so incompetent, Wein wins without trying. Furious, Gerard attempts to stab Wein in the back but is so drunk he smashes through a window and falls to his death. Grenache believes Gerard was assassinated by Wein and Loa and prepares for war. The conspirators behind the rebellion are afraid that war will expose the plot. Wein is enraged that he now faces war with Garen and possibly the Empire. Loa decides to focus on crushing the rebellion with Wein's help, but Wein reveals that their current budget has limited Natra's army to only 500 men. Instead, they must expose the rebellion in order to avoid war entirely. Wein pays an official visit to Aunt Gadel in order to return Gerard's body to Grenache and talk about peace. The conspirators are trying to figure out what Wein is up to. Wein reveals that Loa is aware of the rebellion, but offers Grenache the opportunity to claim innocence by claiming Gerard was the true conspirator. Grenache requests time to think, so Wein departs only for Grenache to send the conspirators after Wein in order to exact revenge on Gerard. Wein had anticipated this and realizes the conspirators are all from the Western Kingdom and had clearly attempted to manipulate Grenache into doing dirty work for the rebellion, but the plot has now failed. Wein defeats them while Nanaki, Wein's assassin bodyguard, stops other conspirators from destroying evidence in Grenache's castle. Grenache chases Wein as he escapes back toward Natra only to find Wein has stationed his army on the border, trapping Grenache between Wein and Loa, who arrives with her own imperial soldiers. Grenache admits to everything after being exposed and apprehended. With her mission completed, Loa cancels her engagement to Wein, despite Ninym tricking her into admitting she likes Wein. Wein admits there were easier ways to defeat Grenache, but this method means Loa now has control over him for future use. Loa returns to the Empire, hoping to one day be Empress so that Wein and Ninym can be friends again. Wein is forced to visit Kavaran Kingdom for Spirit Festival, a holiday of the Levidian religion. During the journey, he visits his captured gold mine and fears that trouble will erupt due to the retirement of his general, Hagel. Several Natran nobles plot to seize Wein's throne, led by a woman named Ibis. Wein is ambushed by soldiers dressed as bandits, but he is saved by remnants of Mardin's army led by General Zeno. Zeno threatens to assassinate Wein in order to prevent him from allying with Kavaran, but because Wein suspects the bandits are Kavaran soldiers, he offers Zeno diplomatic access to Kavaran, allowing her to meet rulers of other kingdoms, potential allies against Kavaran. At Kavaran's capital, Tristoria, Wein meets General Levert and suspects he was behind the fake bandit ambush. Wein meets King Arbalest while Zeno almost assassinates Halani, treasonous former advisor to her deceased King Fusktar. Arbalest introduces Wein to the Holy Elite, Levidian's ruling members, and shocks everyone by inviting Wein as a new member. Wein meets with Elite called Mulia privately, but she leaves when she asks Wein to wipe out the remnants of Mardin's army in exchange for her accepting him as Elite. Mulia is revealed to be an ally of Owl, one of the Aunt Gadel conspirators who lost an armed dueling with Wein. Ninym discovers evidence that Levert is plotting to kill Wein and overthrow Natra. Simultaneously, Ibis and the nobles seize Wein's gold mine. Wein realizes that by elevating him to Elite, Arbalest hopes to repay him. Arbalest casually reveals that he had a daughter, who let him down, so he executed his wife, claiming she conceived their daughter while having an affair with another man. He then enrages Wein by requesting to buy Flom's citizens of the Natra kingdom, such as Ninym, so he can hunt them for sport. Wein assassinates Arbalest while Zeno exacts her revenge by assassinating Halani. Mulia accuses Levert of plotting against Arbalest and seizes power in Kavaran. Out of twisted gratitude to Wein, she sends a message informing him Natra has been seized by corrupt Natran nobles. Wein uses this information to trap Levert and his men between the treasonous nobles' army and the Mardin soldiers, forcing him to attack both. Wein also reveals that he forged General Hagel's retirement in order for him to arrive and destroy Levert and the Natran traitors. Zeno reveals that she is actually Mardin's princess, which Wein already knew. Ibis reports to her master, Mulia, who immediately begins plotting new ways to cause even more chaos. Zeno requests that Mardin become a vassal state of Natra, allowing Wein to rule over Mardin as well, making Wein's life even more difficult, which amuses both Ninym and Zeno. Loa attends the summit of imperial heirs in Milter's merchant city where she and her brothers will negotiate for the throne. Loa invites Wein, but Falania instead attends. Wein had planned to claim he was busy in order to annoy Loa, but he hadn't expected Falania to volunteer. Wein sends Ninym and Nanaki as chaperones, and educates Falania thoroughly about the princes. Manfred gains support through deception and bribery. Bardlok is a soldier with military support, and the eldest Demetrio is a notorious troublemaker. Loa wants Falania to publicly support her, but Wein refuses to form an alliance with the Empire unless Loa is its empress. Falania learns of the citizens' assembly where common merchants create laws. Interesting. Falania that Multiverse is ruled by its citizens. Demetrio decides Falania's presence instead of Wein's is an insult. Pretending to want an alliance with Natra, he asks Falania to marry him, intending to severely abuse her once she becomes his wife. He is taken aback when Falania demonstrates knowledge of political royal marriages, allowing her to temporarily decline his proposal. Demetrio loses his temper and swears to ruin Natra once he becomes emperor, only for Wein to appear, having heard Demetrio's rage. Wein agrees to the marriage, but insists that he and Lowa will also marry. Demetrio agrees to discuss the matter later after realizing that 2 royal marriages would give Natra enormous power in the empire. Wein, who is showing signs of illness, is concerned that the Levidians will try to prevent Multiverse from joining the empire. Lowa is concerned that the summit will fail. Manfred orders Wein's assassination because he is concerned about his intentions. Falania devotes more time to the citizens' assembly and is surprised when the merchants invite her to participate in their discussion. At his next meeting with Demetrio, Wein realizes the tea is poisoned by Manfred's assassin. Thinking Wein is trying to insult his hospitality, Demetrio drinks the tea himself before Wein can stop him and collapses. Demetrio survives, but Manfred and Bardloke blame Multiverse and surround the city with their armies. Wein decides they should escape to Natra, but Levidia's army also arrives, supposedly to save Multiverse from Manfred and Bardloke. Wein's health deteriorates as a result of the situation, and he collapses. Falania delivers a speech to the terrified assembly. Wein awakens and shares a caring moment with Ninym. Falania evacuates all 30,000 citizens who walk right past the stunned armies to ask a similarly stunned called Mula for asylum, reasoning that citizens are more important than the city. Wein makes a suggestion, because he knows Levidia can't handle 30,000 refugees. 10. Wein suggests that the citizens of Multiverse fight for themselves by purchasing weapons from Levidia's army. Kaldmalia is so impressed that she almost refuses to see Wein panic, but her king Gruer accepts. Wein, who claims Demetrio planned his own failed poisoning, meets with Manfred and Bardloke. Despite knowing that this is a blatant lie, Bardloke and Manfred agree to avoid war. Wein only got involved because Falania likes Multiverse and he didn't want her first political experience to end in failure, according to Lowa. Ninym is impressed that Wein has abandoned his plan to sell Natra, albeit for selfish reasons. Gruer invites Wein to a ceremony in Saljust Kingdom. Wein visits Mardin where he suspects Zeno will ask for a political marriage. Despite the advantages for Mardin, Zeno never mentions marriage. When Zeno questions why Wein cares about the welfare of commoners, Wein responds that, historically speaking, every royal family was founded by a commoner who made a mark and established the family line. Since all commoners have the potential to become nobility in the future, it is prudent to be wary of them in the present. He attempts to goad Zeno into discussing marriage, but having decided she would be an unfit queen for a king like Wein, she claims he is not her type, depressing him that his childish plan to thwart her proposal has failed. Wein deceptively labels imperial goods as natron and sells them to the West via Mardin because Western kingdoms following the Levidian religion declined to trade with the empire. Wein is confronted about the fraud by Delunio's prime minister Sergius, but Wein ignores him. Wein is amazed by Saljust's trading ports upon arrival. In an effort to influence Gruer against the hostile Delunio kingdom, Wein believes Saljust's king, Gruer, will attempt to stop the trading of imperial goods. Gruer's daughter Princess Talchela is able to divert Wein with the best food in Saljust. Sergius demands back land at least to Mardin, arguing that since Mardin is now part of Natra, Mardin kingdom no longer exists, voiding the lease. Wein suspects Gruer will try to assassinate him, but when Gruer meets with Wein he is surprised. Gruer claims that, despite being a Levidian elite, he does not think of Flams like Ninym as devils and is quite liberal. He consents to a partnership with Natra, but as Wein departs, it becomes clear that Gruer is collaborating with Sergius. Wein learns upon his return to Natra that Saljust has declared war on Natra and Delunio has attacked Mardin. Zeno urges Natra to reconcile with Delunio in some way, but Wein says he has a scheme to turn everything inside out. In exchange for becoming an elite, Sergius plans to donate the recaptured Mardin land to the Levidian church. While negotiating with Sergius, Wein offers to assassinate Gruer, stating that if Sergius continues to grow in power, he will almost certainly go to war with Natra and Delunio. Sergius, overconfident, offers to accept Natran refugees after the war, so Wein declares that Natra's 800,000 citizens will immediately relocate to Delunio as refugees. Sergius panics after learning Wein did something similar with Multiverse's 30,000 citizens. Wein also falsely claims that the clothing he sold to Delunio through Mardin was tainted with a slow-acting poison and that Delunio's citizens will perish soon. Totally outmaneuvered by Wein's daring and scheming, Sergius is forced to agree to Wein's terms. Gruer is defeated and imprisoned in Natra. Wein reveals Sergius' surrender cost him his political reputation and is no longer a threat. Gruer agrees to sign peace declarations, but first wants to know what is truly driving Wein to such extremes. Wein's response both shocks and amuses Gruer. The following day, Ninym points out that achieving peace has cost Natra most of its wealth as well as its peaceful relationship with the Levidian Church. Wein has a temper tantrum after realizing that his plan to sell Natra is further away than ever and that he has a lot of work to do to fix it.